if it works better this time. I've got cupboards, cans of food, filtered water, and pictures of you. Out till this is all over. But I'm looking through the glass where the light bends at the cracks. And I'm screaming at the top of my lungs, pretending that the echoes belong to someone. Doom, 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 doom. Somebody that I used to know. Will we become silhouettes to bodies finally go? Oh. Good afternoon, love. Hey, Harper is here. What else are we gonna get? Who else is a fucking cat gonna drag in? No, I'm kidding. I'm playing. It's a joke. But seriously, am I gonna fucking... Is this one... I shouldn't be cursing this much so early in the video. Dang it. I'm gonna have to get better about that. Is this one gonna be deprioritized? It doesn't seem like it's gonna be so far, but we will see. Do you smoke weed because you find life boring? Honestly, yeah, kind of. Yeah. How did you guess that? Do you share that or something? I kind of do, yeah. Not just because I find life boring, but because life makes me irritable. Or maybe I've got some kind of mental illness that makes me irritable. But either way, I found weed is the best thing to treat that, you know? But in addition to that, I just generally do not get the same level of excitement out of a lot of stuff that a lot of people do. Well, not necessarily. I get the same level of excitement. I feel like I get more excitement out of certain things than other people do. So that's not exactly fair to say. What I think would be fairer to say is that weed makes it a little easier for me to be open with my emotions and to feel them more strongly. And it elevates experiences and makes me more... It can help me kind of I guess I'll just say it. It sounds kind of stupid, but it kind of helps me rediscover that childlike wonder that I used to get out of stuff. Like if I walk through a downtown area, even if I'm not high, I'm definitely going to have some thoughts about the architecture and the people and all that. But if I smoke weed, or if, heaven allowing, I smoke weed and take some acid before I do that same walk, I will have a way more profound experience, and I'll be way more mirthful and filled with wonder about it and about what I'm seeing, and I'll enjoy it a lot more. Even if I'm just smoking, it'll be like transformative almost, just a simple little walk, which is one of the reasons, and maintaining that, by the way, takes not over consuming. You lose that effect if you overconsume. Feeling emotions is weak. I think the people who are the weakest actually are the people who are so terrified of emotion that they don't allow themselves to be affected by it one bit. They are so terrified of the considerations that they might have to make for other people if they allowed that to play a part in their lives, that they compartmentalize it away. And if you look into people like that, I mean, the people that think they're the strongest in our society are the conservatives. But if you actually look into the statistics, they've done studies on it, and conservatives are the most fear-filled people on the planet. American conservatives, literally. They're right up there with Shia militants in the Middle East in terms of the amount of fear that they have. In terms of the amount of fear that dominates their worldview. My video's grainy? Okay, well, hold on. Let me reset my data real quick. I'll try. And I'll do this. Better, it may not be. Hopefully it is. Pizza rolls are Italian gushers. That is very true. It froze. We should be back. Are we back? Are we back? Are we back? But yeah, no, I would never say that feeling emotions is weakness. In fact, I think denying yourself emotional experience is itself a form of weakness. Why do you care so much? I don't, really. You just brought it up, so I'm responding to it. I'm sorry. Hey, Walter Clark, I don't find you entertaining or funny, so pack it up. Go find another fucking stream to fucking spam in. Weakness or could be disciplined? I don't think so. Well, sometimes, maybe. It depends, right? Obviously, there is a context where it's appropriate to restrain emotion, right? You can't just be bawling if you're the pallbearer at your father's funeral. You can't be. You can be crying, but you can't be bawling because you got to be standing upright with that fucking casket on your shoulder and not faltering on that shit, you know? Like, there are obviously contexts in which you have to restrain emotion. What I would say is a person has some sort of like internal weakness and lack of discipline if they utterly refuse to allow themselves access to emotional experience, but they feel that emotional experience. It is a form of weakness to be unable to address the things in your life. It is a form of weakness to bottle up every little thing that makes you angry and store it away somewhere to explode later on some patch of drywall in your house. That is a form of fucking cowardice and weakness. I'm sorry, it just is. I deal with my emotions. I feel them profoundly, but I deal with them. I cry probably 2 or 3 times a week, but that's fine because I address the things that are making me feel upset. And not every time I cry is because of sadness either. I am one of those people who will cry for joy sometimes. And yet people still say I'm a man. Tell me that's a masculine trait. I literally cry multiple times a week and I'm proud of it. Whatever, dude. What is a woman? Me. And girls who look like me. Nobody else. I'm kidding, by the way. A woman is a person who identifies as a woman. It's pretty simple. Men cry too. Weird thing to say. You're right. It is a weird thing to say if there's like no other context. But my point is not that it's weird for men to cry. My point is that the same people who constantly tell me that I'm a man, that I'm not a valid trans woman, all that shit, are the same exact people who expect men to never cry. I just think that there's an irony in that, you know? A brilliant irony. By the way, if you're liking the stream so far, please hit that like button. That'll help send the stream out to even more people. That is the way that I can't talk. That is the number one way that you can help my channel and therefore help me. Monetized YouTuber here, and I like getting reach. It really is great. So please hit that like button. Woman is in a costume for you to gentrify. That's the wrong use of the word gentrification, number one. Or gentrify, to gentrify. It's just the wrong use of that word, number one. And number two, I don't wear womanhood as a costume. I am a woman, have been living as a woman for the last 6 years, and have nothing else in my closet to wear but woman's clothes. So what would you suggest for me to do? Because I'm not detransitioning because you personally aren't comfortable with it. I don't care about your comfort. I didn't come out as trans to make you comfortable, and I'm not going to detransition to make you comfortable, okay? In fact, I haven't considered your needs not one time in this entire transition process, if you can believe it. Clothes are not what makes a person a woman. Actually, clothes are a huge part of what make people women. If clothes aren't a huge part of what makes people women, then why do so many people make fun of women that wear their pajamas into Walmart? If clothing isn't a big part of what makes a woman, why do people bitch when a woman wears like a non-revealing thing to the beach? Why do people act like that's some affront to the standard socialization of human beings? If womanhood is not predicated at least somewhat on the appearance of human beings, then why do people make fun of women with PCOS for having beards or having facial hair or whatever they've got? Why? As it turns out, womanhood is actually entirely about perception. Entirely. Both internal and external. It's entirely about perception. So is masculinity. By the way, thank you, Ben Jacobs, for the $3. I appreciate that so much. All dono so you might read my earlier question. Okay, Ben Jacobs, you know the rules. You fucking donated. You get that privilege. If anybody else in chat would like this privilege for what I'm about to do for Ben Jacobs, please consider sending a super chat. That will guarantee that I read your message and you will become part of the discourse. Let me see what you said. Hey Phoebes, big question. How much money do you think a single person can make before their income adversely affects the people around them? It entirely depends, I think. For instance, I feel like one person can make $1 to $2 billion on their own the legit way. Anything more than is almost always from fraud and corruption. Well, the way the system is set up right now, any amount of excess wealth you're making that isn't directly tied to your own self-employment and your own labor directly is predicated on corruption, predicated on fraud and the robbing of wealth from the bottom 98% and the movement of it to the top 2%. Depending on your position on that scale, you might be getting benefited along that process, but ultimately, we need to address these systems more than trying. This is why I don't believe in a wealth cap. I believe in addressing the systems that allow people to accrue mass amounts of wealth that they then hoard and keep from the rest of us, that they don't spend back into the economy, that they don't invest at nearly the rate that they profit. I would just change systems that allow that to be a thing. And maybe at some point we would figure out, okay, well, we still need to even the playing field just a little bit more. So we are going to institute a wealth cap. At that point, I would be fine with it. But rather than focusing so much on at what point is a billionaire a bad billionaire, at what point is a billionaire a bad billionaire, if they are not spending every fucking spare dime that they can, there's basically no good billionaire, right? Because at that point, you are so corrupt. It is so many people's death and destruction and injury that has fed into your life that you can't escape it. You can't be rid of it. But there are probably good millionaires. There are probably people who are very wealthy but are spending hundreds of millions every year to, or hundreds of thousands or whatever, to uplift their community in some way. Like there are definitely still philanthropists out there, but it's not enough. And I think I hope that answers your question, Ben Jacobs. I think I covered it as thoroughly as I could. People can do what they want, but it gets offensive when people force their views on others without their consent. Wouldn't for pork on a Muslim or a vegan, so trans stuff on religious people is the same? How am I forcing trans stuff on a religious person, though? I don't give a fuck if any particular religious person does or doesn't like me or believe in trans people or whatever. I really don't care. What I care about is A, do they want to legislate against me? And B, are they going to deal with me like the way they deal with any other human being in society? Because as long as they will still sell their goods to me, as long as they will still sell their labor in a fair, equitable contract with me if they need to, as long as they will maintain our common relationship as two actors in a right now capitalistic or kind of socialized marketplace, whatever you want to call America's weird hybrid system, as long as that remains the case, I really don't care about anything else. You can have whatever views. I do want to convince you. I would rather you not be a bigot. I would rather you, go outside, touch grass, and join us here in the modern day. But short of that, if you're not planning on legislating against me and you're not planning on excluding me from the marketplace, I really do not care what you think about trans people. You can hate us, you can love us, that's great. As long as you want to retain our civil rights, as long as you don't have an active desire to lock people like me up and lock us all away, I like I said, would like to make you understand the truth of the situation. But if you're not going to, let's just agree to not violate each other's civil rights. That would be great. No one wants to lock you up? Okay, kid. Sure. Yeah, I can't go look on Twitter and literally read millions of tweets from right-wing idiots saying we should lock every trans person up in a mental asylum. I'm here because you seem smart, funny, and overall pretty chill. Yeah, I mean, I am. Honestly, I don't know about smart and funny, but I'm definitely chill. I don't hold any ill will against trans. No, I don't think everyone does. Like, if you look at it, something like 60% of Americans still support transgender people. So, dealing with transphobes must be tiring. So, honestly, like, I've had a break from it because of that winter storm and everything. Didn't have power for a few days. Didn't have signal for a couple days after that. And I'm just now getting back to the swing of things. So, I'm ready. We're squaring up. You old bag. Yes. Yes, indeed. I'm not going to get off the internet, though. You can go scroll and find something else, kid. Don't worry. I'll be here tomorrow when you've got a little more steam to let off. You gay? No, I'm bisexual. I don't like trans, but the people are usually really nice to be around as a person. Like, why don't you like trans, though? Shift waves. What hurt is that on your life, And if you're like, I just don't believe in it, but why, though? Like, the vast majority of the scientific community agrees that transgender people are real, that our experience dates back thousands of years, that there have been widespread expressions of transgender attitudes and identities throughout a number of societies. Like, the scientific consensus is on our side. I just don't understand how there's so many holdouts still to this day. By the way, if you haven't hit that like button, please do so now. I really do appreciate it. Every single time you hit that like button is another chance to send this stream out to even more people, which increases the quality of your viewing pleasure by increasing the number of people who can engage in the chat. As you can see, that's the goal here. So please hit that like button. Let's get it up to 20. Let's get it up to 20. I would like to see that. Please do it. Heart. Trans reversal is on the rise, by the way. That is directly associated with the fact that transphobia is on the rise. It is a well-known fact that transgender people start to detransition when conditions in their society turn against transgender people. There are people who are transitioning in pre-Nazi era Germany who had to detransition in order to survive the Holocaust. There were transgender people in the early stages of their and by the way, we never hear about it because nobody cares about trans history except trans people and queer advocates broadly. But there were hundreds of trans people killed in Nazi Germany because they were trans and because they were too far along in their transition to just get away with detransitioning. No, that's a bunch of lies. You're just flatly wrong, and a simple Google search disproves the idea that I'm wrong. A simple Google search would back up everything that I'm saying, so save yourself the shame and punishment and shut the fuck up. Death before detransition doesn't mean trans people dying, by the way. Yeah, I know. I know that. Do they know that, I wonder? Dude, Trump isn't even better than a dog turd laying crusty and white on your lawn. Much less transgender people. You kidding me? Hey, Perseus, don't be fucking timing out and getting rid of everybody. I need some trolls to fucking respond to. Come on, Perseus, don't be doing that. You gotta leave me some of these people to fucking talk shit with. Most trans is a fad. That's why people are detransitioning. It's not cool anymore. You have absolutely no backing for that. The overwhelming fucking consensus of scientists and fucking historians both is that when people detransition, it is directly related to the amount of acceptance present in their society. Trans suicide rates are related to the same thing. In places where there is broad acceptance of trans people are way less likely to kill themselves. In places where there is almost no acceptance of trans people are way, 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 way more likely to kill themselves, for their lives to end by suicide. That's why the statistics are so fucking skewed. You go to a place like Portland and trans people are not killing themselves every fucking day. Well, okay, in a city like Portland, they might be dying in a different fashion that's maybe self-inflicted, but take Seattle, okay? Take a slightly more put-together city. We're halfway to 20 likes, by the way. Please keep hitting that like button. You will help send the stream out to more people, and I appreciate that. You're a dog? Well, woof woof to you. I promise you, most people are not altering their physiology for a fad. I mean, yeah, I didn't even get into that fact, but literally you can just tell that, like, I don't know, dude. When I approach these arguments, I'm always not 100% sure which direction I should go with them, because with almost anything that a conservative or an anti-trans person says, there are like 17 different directions that you can take it to refute it. And it's like, which one do I go down? But yeah, I can tell you this much. As a person who's taken HRT, as a person who's lived as a transgender woman for the last 6 years, nobody would do this for a fad. And if they did, it would last 2 weeks, and they would be 15 years old. And by the way, there is an extensive process for trans kids to be able to get hormones, to be able to get puberty blockers, things like that. So spare me the argument there, if you don't mind. No all caps. Yeah, no spamming. No spamming, no all caps. No, none of that. None of that. None of that. None of that. None! Yeah, don't be timing out everybody. Well, I've been trying to like introduce like a new, not a new, but I feel like the moderation has gotten a little heavy-handed lately, and it's like, you know, a big part of my channel's appeal is the fact that people like to argue with me, so we don't want to do too much of that, you know? It's like, if someone's spamming, you got to get rid of them. I'm sorry. Just a simple Jesus loves you is not an interesting conversation. Trying to write an inward tower in here is not an interesting, you know, like, we get rid of a lot of fucking people around here, but like, you know, posting emojis one time, I don't want that to get somebody banned unless it's a whole fucking paragraph of nothing but emojis. Is it worth the extra day-to-day drama? What do you mean? I argue with my chat for 2 hours and then I hop off and I'm done. I've been trans my whole life. Society has been the rejecting norm. Exactly. I'm really cool. Aw, thanks, Just Jovi. The leaks didn't confirm Trump anything. Go read it again. There's widespread accusations in there. Now, whether we should believe them or not, I guess, is up to you. But there is definitely enough to warrant a reopening of the investigation. Now, is that going to happen? No, because there's also enough to open investigations into major Democratic donors and people who have advocated for voting for the DNC in the past and shit like that. Like, there's too much hinging on the political class of America. There's a lot of people in my political position on the left right now that are acting like the Epstein files is exclusively a problem for people on the right. What I would argue is that people on the left really don't have to worry much about the Epstein files, because it's largely not people on the actual political left, outside of Noam Chomsky, that were visiting the island and that might be implicated in sex crimes and things like that. It's largely people in the Democratic Party. It's people allied with the system, adjacent to allies of the system. It's really not something you need to worry about if you're a person who rejects the two-party duopoly. Whether you're on the right or left, if you reject the two-party duopoly, if you're willing to sacrifice your sacred cows and say, yeah, we need a new flock of politicians because these ones have been corrupt for fucking 50 years and using it to do some really awful shit, then all right. Yeah, Bill Clinton, Noam Chomsky, Bill Gates, number of people who've been big donors to the DNC or thought leaders in the DNC, political leaders, as Bill Clinton was. Podesta, Gates, yeah, no, I know. Yeah, no all caps. It's bad. You may have a brain after all in there. Yeah, see, people think I'm a partisan, but I'm not. I'm a leftist, but that doesn't mean I'm a Democratic hack. I don't like the DNC any more than I like the Republicans, all right? In fact, I might have more contempt for the fucking Democrats, because at least the Republicans are honest when they tell me they want fascism. I knew this was what, here, like, at least to Trump's credit, I knew that this was what was going to be happening this time last year. I knew that this is what society would look like at this time last year. Because if nothing else, you can trust the Republicans to live up to their nightmarish vision of society. You know? The Democrats will promise you the world and then deliver you the status quo. Hence, they lose. Get everyone, regardless of party affiliation, behind bars if they're in the files. 100%. This should be a wake-up call to everyone in America that our politicians have been corrupt for a long time, that there's a ton of people bought and paid for, and that they've been using that position of corruption to do a lot of really untoward things. By the way, if anyone would like to make sure their comment or question gets read or answered, consider sending a super chat. This is an audience-funded channel, and I really do appreciate your donations. You can do that also with the Cash App link, which is down below in the description. Holy shit, based Phoebe, a Republican will walk into the elevator, shit on the floor, and smile at you the whole time. A Dem will do the same, except they blame you for shitting on the floor. Exactly! I fucking hate their asses, because, like, it'd be one thing if they were actually the crazy socialists that MAGA made them out to be. I'd actually fucking like them then! But they're not. They're they're literally weak-minded Republicans that aren't strong enough to come out about their actual beliefs, cosplaying as progressive people in order to win the votes of people that look like me and people that think like me. And it's a really dumb scam, but there are an increasing number of people joining the independents, understanding the nature of the two-party system and why it's fucking people over. And there is a real desire among a lot of progressive and just regular working class people for an end to this two-party system. That's why, by the way, there's a bill right now introduced in the Congress to get ranked choice voting banned at a federal level. Can't be used in any more state elections, can't be used anywhere. They want to do that because it allows the Democrats and the Republicans to select their specific candidates and to decide who gets to run for your city council, who gets to run for your school board. They want to be able to literally control every aspect of your life, and they are going to start by controlling every aspect of your politics. And it is a joint bipartisan effort. Yes, you're right. I'm so glad you're a Trump supporter too. You're under this. I'm not a Trump supporter either. I got no fucking respect for Trump or the Republican Party. I want something new. Don't smoke. Make me. Only two-party until you can, one, get them funding outside of the two parties, also get them on the debate stage. Exactly. People don't understand that, but a third party can win in America. They just need a plurality of the votes, okay? They just need to get some electoral votes, and that's gonna happen as the Dems and the Repubs start to fucking shift so far to the right that they start to lose their entire base. Like, otherwise, they're just gonna have to start, I don't know, though. They might already be. It's hard to say because they might already be buying electors. Like, you realize the electoral vote for a president is not actually taken up. Like, you vote whatever way you vote, but it's like the electors in every state that actually make the decision. And those people are under no responsibility to vote the way their constituency votes. Hello, Phoebe. Repent and stop doing witchcraft. Okay, Michael, I'll try it. Forgive me, O Lord, for I have sinned. Keep doing witchcraft, Phoebe. All right, Michael, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to break up with you. I done got a new acolyte. One more like and we get to 20 likes. Can we do it? They can't accept money like the two parties. Biggest donos are limited at 5K and no debate stage. What do you mean they can't accept money? Sure they can. They've got limits like anybody else would, but they can do it. Oh my god, look at that. Up to 26 likes. Nice. Nice. Hell yeah, look at that. Thank you guys. New like goal. 40 likes. Can we get up that close? Can you take me that high? Thank you. Thank you to everybody who liked. Thank you, thank you, thank you. For the gift, too. Thank you. Yeah, look at that. Gems and jewels. If anybody else would like to donate, consider sending a super chat or hitting up my Cash App, which is down below. Either way is a great way to donate. Independent party has much smaller limits, no super PACs, etc. Well, why can't they have a super PAC? Is there like some procedural regulation, or is it just not evolved yet? Is it not? Has one not emerged? Because there is a widespread leftist movement in this country. There is a widespread consensus among regular people as to the broader issues. I can't say there's a widespread leftist movement in the country, but we are more people than a lot of people give us credit for. People with my particular brand of politics, right? We're a more widespread breed than people think. And on a lot of issues, Americans agree, whether you think of them as leftist issues or not, like universal health care. Most Americans want us to transition to a taxpayer-funded model. That's just the broad opinion of most Americans as of the most recent polling. Even immigration is something that we're pretty much split 50-50 on. So there is a tremendous amount of support for progressive policies in America among voters. And eventually they're going to form that kind of thing. The law limits them? Really? Does it? Well, surely it can't officially limit them. Somebody would have challenged it by now and would have won. I would think. I would fucking think. Maybe I'm wrong. You're a test subject in labs. Why follow you? You're a person who can't even type in the language that you speak, probably is your dominant language. Why listen to you? So I'm supposed to believe that you have a deep and adequate understanding of medical science and stuff like that, but you can't even type correctly, use proper spelling and punctuation? I'm sorry, I'm just not compelled. RFK had to do dinners and smaller events because of it. It does look it up. Well, I believe you. I'm just not sure what law that is. I'm just wondering what the, like, how did they manage to codify that in a way that doesn't violate the First Amendment? You invented English, it's all ghetto? Bro. I am kind of amused at the fact that you type like a third grader, but you want to talk to me about scientific opinion. You know, I think it's a little ironic, that's all. You're like, you're calling me a test subject in labs saying, why follow you? It's like, you can't, like, you spelled that sentence like a third grader. Your and used in that context is not spelled like ideas that you supposedly care so much about, but yet you want to call into question my verisimilitude, the veracity of my claims, the data that I'm basing my beliefs on. I just don't know if that makes a lot of sense to me. You take pills to grow boobs, right? I'm actually not on HRT right now, no. I just have natural titties. That's actually true, by the way. I've had natural titties since I was 12 or 13. All without estrogen. I did take HRT for 3 months, but then I couldn't afford it. If we made it trans way, there'd be no humans. Wait, Robert, you don't think the trans people want to make every human being trans, do you? Well, yeah, I took them at one time. Yeah. I took pills to be more like women. Yes, at one time. I'm not on them now. How can trans reproduce? I mean, I have a son, so I don't know. Actually, it's fun fact. You asked, Robert, so I'll give you a real answer, okay? The answer to your question is because trans people, number one, do not universally lose fertility. And it depends on the trans person you're talking about. So trans men, if they want to have a kid, are probably going to have to get their eggs frozen, and they will have to hope that they can afford in vitro fertilization at some point in the future. That is the same case whether you're a trans man or a trans woman if you're freezing your gametes, right? If you're a rich trans person, that's the direction you go. If you're a poor trans person, then your option is pretty much have kids before you start HRT, or don't be too far along in your HRT and in your um, transition process, because the longer you are on HRT, the less likely you are to retain fertility. I was only on HRT for 3 months, so after I couldn't afford them anymore and was off of them for a few years, I regained every bit of fertility, and I was able to have a kid with somebody. So it like didn't affect me lifelong in that way. But now that I've had a kid, and especially now that I'm over a year into raising him, I don't think I'll be having another. I love him to death, but I'm just not as fucking you know what? I'll just say it. I'm not as adept at parenting as I thought I would be when I was a kid and when I was a teenager. I'm good at it. Don't get me wrong. I'm fine. It's good. I read to him. I play music with him. He's really happy. Don't get me wrong. It's good. But I am not as there are just some parents, like my mom never really seemed to get all that frustrated with me when I was a kid. As long as there were some times when she would, but it was connected to other stressors in life, and I figured that out pretty quickly. But generally, she was like super nice and unbothered by the things I would do, um, and she was able to just flow. And me, I will get like overly frustrated at moments where I just well, ultimately though, I guess it's a good thing that I think about it in this way, because I end up like calming myself down in that moment by just thinking, how would my mom react to this situation? And then I'm like, okay, she would just grab the towel and she would clean up the juice. All right, it's fine. Don't even have to move him. He's in his playpen. It's fine. There's nothing. It's so simple. Yeah, it's going to be a little sticky there until you go grab the bleach or the floor cleaner or the fucking whatever, depends on the floor. If you have the wrong floor surface, you do not want to use bleach on your floors. But, I've got linoleum and shit. So whatever. It's just plastic. You can't fuck it up with conventional cleaners. Well, it seems like the chat has moved on to bigger and better things. I don't even know what you guys are talking about anymore at this point. Robert is so mad. Why do you have such an issue with broad scientific consensus, Robert? We stopped listening to you at our own conversation. You're not even participating in the conversation, you bitch. What do you mean you had your own conversation? You don't see old fat people? Bullshit. You ain't never lived in the fucking South. I can tell you that much. Tactical renovations. Bullshit. You don't ever see fat old people? Maybe not fucking in their 90s, maybe. But I see fucking fat old people every time I go to the local grocery store, motherfucker. Sorry, that was a little rude. But you get what I'm saying. I live in Mississippi, my friend. I know plenty of fat old people. Fat motherfuckers live to perfectly long lives, my friend. The pacemaker was invented a long time ago. Diabetes medication was invented a long time ago. Hell, my fucking my uncle is he's got to be in his 60s now, and he's fat as the fucking moon. You're tripping no 80, 90? I ain't trying to live to 80 or 90 anyway, bruh. I ain't trying to do that. Listen, for your information, I have been losing weight. I'm actually down 50 pounds over the course of the last year, if you have to know. Well, I'm sorry, over the course of the last 2 years. Because the first time I checked my weight and kept it notated with the scale I have here at the house, it was 346. And as of the last time I weighed in back in December, I was at 307. Now, originally I got down to I got as low as 292 or something like that, but then it shot back up over the holidays. And well, at this point, I'm looking forward to spring because right now we're still recovering from the effects of a massive ice storm, which makes it kind of hard to walk any of my normal routes because they're all frozen over with big layers of sheet ice. But once spring gets here, or even once that shit melts a little more, it'll be way easier to get back into the habit. And, to my credit, I've been drinking big old jugs of water, half of these a day. So that's cool. If you can't farm your own food, you are dependent. I agree, actually. I agree. Now, I think that modern society and civilization requires some people to be dependent. And I think you would have to agree, or you'd have to commit a logical fallacy. But yeah, if you crave true independence, you need to be able to grow your own food. I 100% agree. And honestly, we do need to encourage greater independence because we also need, in my mind, I think it would be better if we encourage not just greater independence, but greater community work. I don't know how to put it. We need to foster a greater sense of community, and we need to foster a greater sense of individual independence. That's the word I was looking for. Because both of them are important to surviving whatever's coming next, whatever you think is going to happen. We all agree that a collapse is coming. We survive that only by having people like my family, people who know how to fucking garden and can things and preserve things and build shit the old-timey way. But we also need people who are really knowledgeable with like medicinal herbs and things like that. We need people who are really knowledgeable with machinery and technology of all different sorts, because what is left of that and what we can still get access to of that is still as useful as it can be to us for as long as we can keep it maintained. It takes all kinds of kinds. Hmm. You do you and I do me. That's all we want. Well, I'm fine with that attitude on a social level, but on like a pragmatic level, I'm sorry, but if you're going to enjoy the road, you need to be willing to pay part of the taxes that contribute to the building of it and the maintaining of it, you know? Like on a pragmatic level, people benefit no matter what they do. Like, unless, here's what I will say, my perfect society, or even just a thing I think you could do in America without fucking too much up, even with things as they are right now, I would love for us to abolish property tax for properties valued less than a certain amount of money. Like if your property is, and people would say, oh, people are just going to value their properties way less. Nope. Nope. Because you would also pass a law that like ties market rates to whatever the tax assessment is. And people are not going to crash the housing market just so they can get cheap tax rates on their fucking land. They are simply not going to do it. They flatly will not do it. So under a certain limit, I don't think property should be taxed, because I think that if you want to live in some little tiny house that's completely off grid, you've got a gas heater and a wood heater, and it's not like, the gas is not connected to a gas line. It's something you've got to take into town if you want to refill it, but it's like you've got a boiler outside for your hot water and maybe for heat if you set things up that way. Like, I think people should be able to live that way, and that kind of structure is not going to be valued that highly. So maybe it's like structures less than 100 grand, get like, no, you don't have to pay property tax on that. That would also help out homeowners who have houses that are just kind of small and inconspicuous and shit. And a lot of those people are just regular working class people, so it'd be nice to relieve them of some property tax too. And if you simply started actually enforcing and reasonably extracting the property tax from big properties and these big corporations with sweetheart deals in all these cities, you would more than make up for the deficit in the budget caused by the lack of those low income property taxes. Or sorry, not low income, but low property value. Sorry, they just kind of tend to walk hand in hand. Are you ZZM? No, I'm she, her. Property taxes should only be voted on by people who own homes. Renters shouldn't be allowed to vote to raise them. Why? Why, though? I'm fine with taxes, so are others like me. Infrastructure stays. Yeah, I mean, you have to. You have to. Property taxes should only be voted. Yeah, I don't agree with that at all. Because they don't pay them? Yes, they do. Okay, where does the money for their fucking rent go then? Where does the money for their fucking rent go then? Does it just vanish into thin air? I flip houses. Most markets go up faster than rent. So, I don't care to make the environment nice for people that want to fucking use houses as a commodity. I think that your profession is disgusting, actually. I think that you profit off of America's fucked up housing market. 6-month leases then adjust as property tax goes up, but they don't own it. So why do they have a say? Because you're adjusting it as the property tax goes up. You're literally citing the exact reason why they have to have a say in whether the fucking property taxes can go up or down. Because they are directly affected by whether or not the property taxes go up or down, as you yourself just explained. Once again, I don't care. I don't care. I don't listen. If I were made High Commissioner of the United States and I could just do whatever I wanted, let me just put it this way: landlords would need to band together into a private army of themselves and hope for the best. I would be America's Mao. Let me just put it that way. Okay? I'm not even trying to be a douchebag here. I'm just letting you know where we both stand in this conversation. We can continue arguing about it, but just know that I find your particular job actually more reprehensible than that of a cop or a corrupt governor, because your job is predicated on people being desperate for housing and willing to get horrible loans for overinflated prices. I sound like Trump? Well, he's got millions behind him, so maybe that's a good thing. You know, I have no problem with people fixing up the fucking houses, tactical renovations. The problem I have is that you probably take a house that you buy for 30 grand and then flip it for 150 grand. Okay? Now, if you're taking a house for 30 grand, putting 20 grand worth of work into it, and then you're selling it for 80 grand, then I commend you. Okay, all right, fair enough. That's a little bit of profit margin, so you can afford to go bigger and better next time. And you're still providing a home on the market for way lower than market rate. But if you're fucking selling the houses for market rate, you are ripping people off, my friend, because the housing market is massively overinflated. Like I said, tactical renovations. I applaud you for fixing up the houses, but my fucking opinion of you entirely predicates on the amount of profit you are extracting from working class people when you sell these houses. Because I've seen how this works. I've got personal experience with how this works. My mom sold her house to a flipper. I buy for 120 grand, 40K in my labor and materials, and never get top of market rate. Right now, market is down. Is it really? It's been on the fucking up and up for so long that I just fucking stopped even like getting, regular updates about it when I would look at the news and shit. I stopped looking for it because it was like, well, whatever. I guess America's fucking housing market. Come on down. Guess shit's just gonna stay expensive for the rest of my life. Whatever. So let's say you put buy 120 grand and then you spend so what, 200 grand? Because at that point, I'm sorry, but that's still, I don't know, man. I guess that's fine. But if you're selling it for like 250 or 300 grand or 350 or 400 grand, man, you are extracting some motherfucking profit off of people. And while the capitalist in me that is required to have a YouTube channel and make it even somewhat successful wants to applaud you for that, the socialist in me recognizes that that is an abhorrent and evil thing to do. Like, there is no reason for that other than the fact that you can. So, I know you said you're not getting top of market rate. But if you're buying a drug house for 120 grand, I know the market's up a whole fucking bunch, but you know what would actually be a useful thing to know? Tactical renovations. Can you tell us what city you operate in? Like, what area you're operating in? Because that would give us a better impression of like what the market looks like in that area. Because if it's just like small towns or something, if it's like some suburb, then maybe it's not that much, or maybe it's a ton. I don't know. I'm just kind of curious. Spokane, Washington. Okay. I don't know what the market is like in Spokane. Does anyone know? Can someone fucking do a Google search for me? Do you want to tell me yourself? I'll trust you. Tactical. You've been honest so far. Remodeling is faster than building new, so I'm providing a house when someone can qualify. I get that. Like I said, my problem is not with the flipping of houses. My problem is with the extraction of profit from the process of getting people housing. I just don't like it. I don't think that someone should have to work their ass off just for the right to have a place to sleep every night, you know? I know that, call me a communist, it just gives me a fucking gross feeling in my gut when I think about someone sleeping outside because their two jobs and fucking effort was not enough to secure them a home. It's growing, but down. I'll be real with you, Tactical, and you're probably going to laugh at this and be like, oh, well, I've fucking wasted my time. But I'm kind of a retard when it comes to economics. So when someone says something like the market is getting bigger, but it's going down, my brain breaks. And I instantly get this like vision of math equations in my head going like just sideways and looking like the chalkboard is coming close. And I don't get it one little bit. But you know what? I'm glad that there's people out there that do. I'm glad that there's people like Karl Marx and Bernie Sanders and fucking, you know, fucking, okay, all right, those are the only two economists I know by name. All right. Well, showing my biases there, you know, but seriously. I pay $2,700 a month for a basic house here. I can't do the math on that, man. My fucking dumbass cannot do the math that quick on that. But that's pretty fucking expensive for a mortgage, I can tell you that much. At least compared to where I'm from. I live in Mississippi, and if my family were to sell the land that we live on, for example, which we wouldn't, because you know, it was in my great grandfather's will that nobody in the family would. But if we were to, if somebody did, then words. If somebody did, it, you know, probably would sell for like I don't actually know. Because where I'm actually at is kind of close to two little towns that are both like, one of them is way closer than the other, but they're both places with businesses and places to get groceries and stuff like that. And there's two like big workplaces near it. I don't know how many people they hire, but I know they hire quite a few. So maybe this place would sell for like 50 grand. But that's still a lot, like a ton lower than, you know, a lot of places elsewhere. And I don't know what that would amortize out to in a mortgage. I'm here because this caught my eye. I'm curious to know so I can get my argument down, a debate argument, not an actual fight. Are you a Democrat? No, I'm a leftist. I find the Democrats reprehensible because they represent a weak, coddling attempt to nurse the right wing away from fascism while basically adopting all of their policies and normalizing them while waving a gay flag around and pretending like they're everybody's friend. I think that people who are actually critical of capital should abandon the Democratic Party and start voting for independent and third parties that have their best interests at heart and that are willing to stand up for what they actually fucking believe in. because I think America needs bold ideas and big changes, not weak, foolish spinelessness like Chuck Schumer represents and Nancy Pelosi represents. Sensible leftist, I respect you. Okay. Yeah. Righteous. You know? Glad to hear it, I guess. Well said, but if the Dems are the only real option, what will you do? I could see the Democrats selecting somebody with enough pressure that was kind of a lefty. If they were to select an actual leftist, I would vote for the Democratic candidate. But so far, every single time they've had the opportunity, they have literally ran so hard away from it that it blows your mind. They had the opportunity to nominate Bernie. He was winning against Trump in a lot of internal polls. They had the opportunity to get him to be the front-runner candidate, and they didn't pick him. Why? Well, I think it goes back to the fact that they are basically a moderate to center-right party that has more of an interest in kissing up to their billionaire donors, which are, by the way, the same donors that donate to the Republican Party because they all hedge their bets, than they do actually enacting any of the will of the people. So they will make broad appeals to the will of the people in order to get elected. But when they get in there, they will do the bare minimum that they can do to preserve some public goodwill while ultimately changing nothing. All you need to know about the Democratic strategy of governance is to listen to Joe Biden when he told a group of Wall Street investors, under my administration, nothing will fundamentally change. You know nothing? You say so. What does it mean to hedge a bet? It means you basically set it up so that you profit either way. It means, in this context at least, that in the context of billionaires donate to both sides of the political aisle, it means that they assure that no matter who wins in any given election, they have a financial incentive, the politician does, to enact the corporation's will. Yeah, you're right. Hey, Trevor St. Martin, are you just going to call me a retard all night? Because if so, I mean, that's cool, but are you actually a person that's intelligent enough to formulate an argument, or do you have nothing but vitriol and hate? Because if you have nothing but vitriol and hate, that's fine. I'm not going to have anybody ban you, but I would like to know just so that I can, like, not read your comments in the future. I'll just ignore your name. Are you male or female? It's a grand mystery. I'm a trans woman. That's as much as you need to know. Usually they can't form a coherent sentence or thought. Who? You talking about me? You talking about somebody else? Very confused. Define woman. Someone who identifies as woman or can be readily identified as a woman. What happens if you trick someone into thinking you are a woman? What do you mean, trick someone? I haven't tricked anyone. If someone thinks I'm a woman, they are thinking the correct thing. That is what they should think, because that is the truth of the situation. I know you personally might not believe in trans people, but trans people believe in you. That's that making moronic. Oh, okay. Right on, Ben. What's up, Striker? We're starting to see some activity in here finally. Make sure you guys hit that like button, by the way. It really does help. That was not a definition of a woman? Sure it is. It's a social thing, so it's defined by its social characteristics. So it's someone who identifies as a woman and is perceived as one, or is like trying to be perceived as one on some level. Like, Is a person a woman if they're like a trans woman but they haven't come out yet? I think technically yes. But for purposes of this conversation, it's easiest to just like leave it at someone. Like if you see someone and you think, oh, that's a chick, then that's what a woman is. Like I think we all have a vague general idea of what a woman is, but if you actually start asking people what do they think about femininity, what are aspects of womanhood, you will get a wide ranging definition. You will get a lot of variation in that, and everyone have their own particular idea about it, and who's to say which is valid. Hi, how are you? I'm good, Joy. Thank you for coming in. You're regarded. Well, you can't even spell right, so I'm not convinced. Sorry. Yeah, it is a social thing. What kind of argument is that? It's an argument that you should address with something other than vitriol and ad hominem. It is a social construct. It objectively is. You can look it up. Gender is entirely a social construct. Trans people are valid? 100% the ajna, yes. You're not asking you to define womanhood, define woman. That's a woman is a person who exhibits the traits of womanhood and identifies with them. There you go. Like a person who is like wearing feminine clothes and has a feminine haircut or it like identifies as a woman is a woman. It's not that hard, and the fact that you guys struggle with this so intensely really proves how weak your argument is. Let me just demonstrate it for you, right? Okay, so what is your definition of a woman? What is your definition of a woman? That's offensive to women? Well, I will let them tell me about it because I have mostly women friends and none of them have ever made a transphobic comment towards or about me. So, adult human female? What is an adult human female? Don't laugh. Don't just talk bullshit. I want to hear an answer. What is an adult human female? Good morning from Australia. Good morning, Australia. I'm a woman and she's fine. Leave her alone. Yeah, I love to see comments like that. Thank you, sis. I'm actually stupid. Cool. A woman has eggs, so a chicken is a woman. I've got chickens outside right now. Shall I do it? Should I pull a Diogenes? Should I pull a Diogenes? Okay, we're going to do it. Okay, someone just said a woman has eggs. Someone just said a woman has eggs, and we're going to do it. We're going to fucking do it. We're going to pull a Diogenes right now, all right? So, I just want you to keep that in mind, right? You said a woman has eggs. That was your definition of what is an adult human female. A woman has eggs. Oh, I'm so excited. Oh, yes, this is going to be great. Okay, a woman has eggs, right? Let's keep that in mind. Let's keep this train going. Let's keep that in mind. Let's bear that thought thither, okay? All right? We all understand? Behold, a woman! Behold her! This is a woman. I have found her. She is right here. What a horrible, stupid argument. What a ridiculously dumb argument. I can't believe someone would say that. That is freaking wild. That is too good. A woman has eggs, everybody. So a woman is actually, after all this hullabaloo and discovery, a chicken. Oh, that is fucking great. I love your sense of humor and attitude. Thank you. Can you give birth? No, but neither can most women with PCOS. You gonna exclude them from womanhood too? A woman with Meyer-Rokitansky-Kuster-Hauser syndrome can't give birth either. Are we gonna exclude them from womanhood? A woman with a hysterectomy cannot give birth. We gonna exclude them from womanhood? Exactly how much of the woman population are you planning on excluding from womanhood with your definition meant to only exclude trans women? Oh God, I'm fat. Oh Jesus. You can tell I've gotten off my exercise regimen. Woman has eggs. She doesn't lay eggs. She kind of does, if you think about it. A period is just a woman laying an egg without a hard shell. I mean, it's a lot more painful than it is for something that like lays an egg, like the way we traditionally think about it, obviously. Way more painful. But, you know, ultimately, I was really just more demonstrating the clumsiness of your definition. You always speak based on opinion than actual facts. I'm literally, when I am advocating for pro-trans positions, I'm advocating the position of science. I'm advocating the position of medical consensus. You can like that, you can dislike it, but it's it's the flat truth of the situation. If you enjoyed that little bit, by the way, please consider donating. This is an audience-funded channel. The Super Chat button works fine, and I appreciate it every single time. You can also donate with CashApp. That's down below. Either way works and is great, and I appreciate it a ton. Are you a girl? Yes. Science, what the fuck? You can't fake science? Nobody's faking science. Trans people have been recognized by scientists for a long time. You can look into this. Don't just be crazy. Like, don't act like the information is crazy to you. Don't just reject it on the face of it. Actually look into it. Look up the things that I'm telling you. Look up Mayo Clinic transgenderism, and you will read an entire write-up based on long-standing science, citing hundreds of articles along the way, hundreds of studies along the way, and case reviews and things like that that will thoroughly explain every single facet of the trans experience directly to you in layman's terms, supported by science. Keep up your great attitude. Well, thank you, Westru. I appreciate that. That $2 is very kind of you. Anybody else want to get their comment or question read or answered, consider sending a super chat just like they did. I appreciate that a ton. Let's go, Trump ending my bullshit. Trump ain't done shit to me. Trump ain't gonna do shit to me. I'm a natural born citizen, baby. And according to my 23andMe, my family has been here longer than probably any of you bitches. Like, if you fucking look at it, there's a good chance that my family came in one of the initial waves over from England. So my family doesn't want me. Well, that's news to me because they seem to love me quite a bit. But if, hey, whatever helps you sleep at night, kid. Far be it from me to get in the way of good delusion. All those studies were created to make you feel good. That is the single most ridiculous argument that I've ever fucking heard to try and dismiss the science behind transgender people. Okay? Because there would be absolutely no incentive to make transgender people feel good in an era where being trans was so uncommon, so restricted, so seen as so abnormal, that very often people were only honest about it with their doctors. outside of specific countries. Like pre-Nazi era Germany, for example, had trans people that were out and openly living their lives. It was the center of a lot of the earliest like scientific research into trans people. It was also one of the first things the Nazis burned and got rid of when they took power. So consider for a moment that you are taking the same position as the German fascists of 1945. I denounce you and this is evil. I don't give a fuck what you denounce, kid. You're not a woman. You're not the one who gets to determine that. That's between me and my doctor, and pretty much every therapist I've ever had has agreed that I am, in fact, genuinely trans. In fact, not pretty much. Literally, everyone I've ever talked to in a medical capacity about this has agreed with my own assessment of the matter, which is that I am trans and benefit from being recognized as a woman. Can you provide any sources? Sure. Mayo Clinic, Johns Hopkins University, American Pediatric Institute, or American Pediatric Association. I forget which one it is. The American Medical Association. You can look into, you can do a Google search on the term the Dutch Protocol on Trans People. You can get the basis of trans medicine for people that are under 18. There are a whole lot of sources you can look into, actually. All you need to do is look up what is the science on transgender people. Literally as simple as that. It's as easy as that. Can I ask you a genuine question? Yes, you can. You can indeed. I can say I'm something, but I'm not, but that doesn't make it true. I mean, someone can say that they're a sandwich, but nobody's going to like recognize that because there's no like established medical science around people benefiting from the process of being identified as a sandwich. But you can identify as a woman and be recognized as such because, well, number one, gender is entirely a mode of social expression, and therefore it is ultimately subject to someone's choices about their own self-expression, but also because it's widely accepted science that transgender people benefit from being allowed to be our authentic selves. If you're going to identify as a sandwich, bring 2 slices of bread. That should help. Do what now? What are you going on about now? Just a question, why don't you do something worthwhile instead of being the masses? The only reason the doctors are agreeing with you is because you pay them to? That's really fucking interesting considering it's the insurance company that, and they are generally not too fond about actually paying for like trans medicine. So there's tons of trans people that like end up getting started on medicine, but then they lose their insurance because they can't afford it. And then like they don't, then they're not on HRT anymore. But yet somehow you're just one of these people that has decided all the medical science is wrong because there's money involved. But yet when I say, okay, so let's make it a universal healthcare system and let's have the fucking taxpayers pay for it, you say, no! It doesn't make any sense. This is a position you only adopt out of convenience because you want to hate on trans people. It's not something you actually believe. You've been in your echo chamber for too long. I literally have such a lenient ban policy in this chat that 90% but MAGA people and Trump supporters. But thanks for the recommendation about what I might or might not be doing. You need some mods? Oh, we've got some mods. What we really need is this. We'll do this. It'll make things a little bit better. Participant mode, subscribers only. That should make things a little bit better. By the way, if you want to make sure your comment or question gets read or answered, consider sending super chat. I do read every single one as long as it doesn't violate TOS. So please consider doing that if you want to make sure that happens. Let me just make sure I've read all of them so far. Keep up your great attitude dealing with transphobes. Yeah, no, for sure. For sure, for sure. Yeah, thank you all to all of you who've donated so far. I also have CashApp down below if you prefer to donate that way. Move to Transylvania. Are vampires queer? No, I just think that, like, I don't know about you, but I think it's like a really funny thing to say. When people ask what country that flag is from, I'll say Transylvania, because like trans. I think I'm clever. I'm a broke ass son of a bitch. Don't be sorry. It's just encouraged by the algorithm and all that to occasionally shout out the donos and that kind of thing. It's also encouraged by my wallet, you know. Nobody has to donate though. It's not like I always tell people when they're complaining about the stream, I'm like, I don't have you chained to the radiator. I'm not that powerful. You living in your own fantasy, my male broski. I'm not living in any kind of fantasy. I'm recognizing the objective facts about reality as affirmed by the medical and scientific community. You guys are the ones living in a crazy fantasy world. Can I ask your opinion on something Brooke Babbles was arguing? Sure, Stryker. Sure. Yeah. What was she arguing? What was she arguing about? What was she doing? Floodmucker 1000, what is the gender on your birth certificate? None of your fucking goddamn business. Explain how your emotions, belief, or reality. It's not emotions that make me feel like a woman. It's just like the programming of my brain. I can't help it. There's nothing I can do about it. The emotions come when I'm not allowed to live as the gender that I actually am. That is when the negative emotions were happening. The positive emotions that I feel now from being allowed to live as a trans woman are associated with that, but they're not the reason why I'm trans. It's like the programming of my brain, my friend. Can't make this stuff up? Exactly. Nobody has made anything up. You can educate yourself all about transgender science. You can do it. You can look all about the scientific backing of transgender experience and educate yourself a little bit before looking like a complete moron. It's all up to you. The power, my friend, is in your hands. Will you take it? It's in your hands. Just take a look. It's in a book. The Reading Rainbow. You support the U.S. Army? I support the vets. I support the troops. I do not support the U.S. Army. I think that the military should be scaled back, and I think that the military has been misused in a number of ways. But I think that some of the most profound victims of that, at least domestically, are our veterans. And we don't do nearly enough to take care of them in this country. It's one of the fucking easiest things for people to make fun of, no matter what side of politics they're on, is the amount of homeless veterans that exist in this country. The amount of people underserved by their VA hospital. Y'all remember a few years back when there was literally a VA records building that was so badly maintained that it just collapsed into itself? Why can't you admit you have a mental illness? Because I don't. You're the one who's making up some entirely different scientific reality and trying to apply it to me. I am the person who recognizes the scientific reality that I am a transgender person who experienced gender dysphoria until I started doing things that actually affirmed my internal gender identity and made it my external gender identity. At this point, I experience way less gender dysphoria because I am treating that appropriately. And I guess you could say in that fashion, I have a mental illness, but it's really not seen so much as a mental illness as it is like a brain type. It's like autism. It's like not something you can necessarily cure. It's something that you treat with different methods. And so far, the best method that has been discovered with the best outcomes for trans people and the best outcomes for society broadly is allowing trans people to be their authentic selves. I mean, I have autism too. Does that make my opinions invalid? Like, yeah, I have some mental illnesses. Does that make my opinion invalid? If you think so, well, fucking get ready for this. Donald Trump has Alzheimer's disorder. Donald Trump is clearly the victim of a stroke. So if you got problems with people with mental illnesses, if you got problems with people fucked up with their head, I got news for you. A ton of the people you worship are retarded and their brains are broken. Internal and external body are fully synchronized. The fact base of yours is incongruent is inconclusive to your claims that these practices hold legitimate value. I don't claim that these practices hold legitimate value because of my personal experience. I claim that these practices hold legitimate value because there is a broad scientific consensus on the matter. There's hundreds of studies that's been done on the matter. And when science says something is true, I tend to accept it, because if science wasn't reliable like that, we wouldn't be able to have cell phones, gasoline, or any of the other many things that we rely on for everyday life. By the way, using a preponderance of big words does not actually make you look like an intelligent person. It makes you look like a pretentious cocksucker that wants to make yourself look smart. So stop. Stop doing it. If you're going to do it like me and pepper them in every once in a while. But don't overload your sentences, because you sound like a Jordan Peterson ripoff. Phoebe, you're doing great things. I appreciate your opinions. I love your logic. Thank you. Well, thank you. What a kind comment. By the way, if you've been on the stream, please consider donating. This is an entirely audience-supported channel, and you can help me continue to have money to continue doing this shit, either through donating to my Cash App down below or with Super Chat. Either way, you can help continue the mission of my channel, bringing people of disparate political backgrounds together for interesting conversations. My bangs are fire. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So if science is true, can you give birth, bro? Once again, the scientific reality of transgender people does not in any way contravene biological sex. You guys are the ones who insist that biological sex and gender identity are the same exact thing. They are not. This is just provably true. I'm sorry. Like, it is provably a fact that gender and sex are things. You don't want to see them as different things because you want to have a reason why all the hatred you've been told to have for trans people is valid. You want to have a reason why you can continue to make fun of a minority that you love to hate. You want to have a reason why all the demagogues on the right wing are right, despite all the fucking garbage that they spew, despite their unwillingness to ever cite sources. You guys really demand sources out of us, but when it comes to the right wing, you're literally, get this, right? I think this is the most hilarious and stunning display of hypocrisy that comes out of the right wing. On the one hand, you've got people that want to demand sources all day long, but on the other hand, they will believe anything that their demagogues tell them. If Donald Trump told them that China was planning on, sewing a little, I can't think of the damn word, microchip. Like if Donald Trump told everybody that China was planning on sewing a microchip into every American's skin by employing an army of fairies to go enter like Santa Claus through their chimneys and implant it into them, there are genuinely tons of MAGA people that would go around saying that that's 100% true, and coming up with all kinds of narratives as to why it's true, as to why it actually makes a lot of sense, and why you're stupid if you don't believe it. You know, they're not like, a lot of people at that point are like not really political thinkers so much as they are reactionaries that have found a political daddy that they really like. I don't want my kids to be trans, but I don't want my kids to be Muslim, communist, gay, or in a cult. That's not hatred, though. Yeah, it kind of is. You shouldn't want your kid to be anything but happy and successful. You shouldn't want your kid to be a goddamn thing but happy and successful. If you're just looking for your kid to be a carbon copy of you, then, like, what was the point of even having a kid then? Are you just like a narcissist that loves yourself so much that you think the world wasn't enough? It wasn't enough for the world to get one dose of your stupid ass. The world's got to get a second round? Is that the whole point in you having a kid? Because I've got a son, and I don't care what he ends up identifying as later on in life. Now, I got to tell you, the fact that I'm trans means the fact, like, he will almost certainly be just a regular straight man and that'll be it. Like, I'm probably never going to get any surprises like that, because that would be like a statistical anomaly to the highest extent possible. That would be like a crazy statistical anomana. That would be a crazy statistical anemone. Pretty sure, Fabi. Yeah, I just explained sex and gender identity. Sorry if you didn't catch the explanation, but I'm not going over it again. Thank you. Why has the word of transgender changed so drastically? This has never been such a big issue before. I don't really think it has. Like, nobody's changed anything. There's just broad scientific consensus and a lot of people that want to argue against it without actual fucking facts backing them up. Lots of people that want to, like, misinform people about trans people and make us out to not exist or whatever, but like, not a whole lot of actual facts backing them up. By the way, if you've been enjoying the content, please consider hitting that like button. That is the best way you can help out my stream for free. But if you've got a little extra money burning a hole in your pocket and you want to help out a small-time creator, please consider sending a donation either to my Cash App down below or to the Super Chat button right down there. Either way, I will read the note attached or the comment that you read, and I will make your part of the discourse. And I'll respond to it too. If it's an interesting question, might take 10 minutes responding to it. But we've only got like 10 or 20 minutes left, so I want to put out a few more calls before we go. Yeah, no all caps, please. No good evidence exists to support the proposition that a sense of gender identity is innate. I think I would actually agree with you, but like, what does that mean to you, right? Because to me, that means it's, just as silly to say that someone is born, cisgender as it is to say someone is born trans. Now, I would argue that, like, from what I understand, there actually is some, there's some preliminary kind of initial findings that might suggest that there might be a genetic link, but we don't have any firm hard facts on the matter yet. But to me that just says, like, well, neither is being cis then. People forget the Chinese and Japanese dynasties had male geishas, so did the Romans, who've derived much of our political and government systems. Yeah, well, people don't even care about that because they love to idolize those times. They love to look up to feudalism. Authoritarians love to cite the authoritarians of the past and imagine what a beautiful world it would be if they could just get back to that time. But if there's anything unconventional about those times, they will just conveniently fucking, like, leave them out of the narrative. It's like the fact that Romans had Saturnalia. Like, Romans looked at as this time of, like, great beauty and wonderful, early governmental structure, and people had a voice and the family and all this shit. But in reality, Rome was a debaucherous place full of people that loved to fuck and drink and get high. And it was that from its earliest origins. Thank you, Lexi Ray, for the laughing disco ball. I appreciate that. Is Phoebe balding? No, not as far as I know. Can I give birth? Yes or no? No. How can you identify as something you can't do? So are we going to exclude every woman who's had a hysterectomy then? Are we going to exclude every woman who's had who has PCOS? Are we going to exclude every woman who has Meyer-Rokitansky-Kuster-Hauser syndrome? Exactly how much of the woman community are you going to exclude from womanhood because you want a definition of womanhood that excludes trans women? Hey, Casey. Head full of hair? That's, yeah. That's what I figured. There's been countless women who couldn't bear children. Yeah, I mean, like, women with PCOS and women who've had a hysterectomy are just a fucking small sampling of the answer. There's people with menstrual diseases. There's people with epithelial disease, or is that the right word? I can't remember. There's people with all kinds of different conditions that make them unable to bear children. Hell, there are women who's just, like, their hips just ain't that wide, and bearing a child naturally for them is a losing proposition. For the love of God, someone give me a definition of womanhood. Someone who identifies as a woman, or someone you perceive to be a woman who doesn't correct you. Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. Fucking science, not the Bible. Next. Sorry, but Adam and Steve was a thing. Yeah. You didn't read the Apocrypha, clearly. There's a long story about Adam and Steve in the Apocrypha. The Catholics just think that shit counts. They want you to believe that shit is fake. No, it's not part of the canon. Bullshit. Using a term to define itself is not very productive, but sometimes it's the only choice we have when we're talking about a social phenomenon. Like, for example, Joe Thomas, I brought this up the other day. What is a Republican? What is a Democrat? Someone who identifies as one. How else could you identify a Republican or Democrat, though? Well, I guess if they had a sign, if they were at a protest or something, you could probably make a pretty good guess. If they had a shirt on with one of the two political parties on it, or an like if they had an anti-Democrat shirt on, they're probably either a far leftist or someone on the right, so like there's some outward identifiers, okay? And if you can agree to that, then you can clearly fucking see how there are certain things in our society that we recognize with complete validity that are themselves entirely socially based, entirely feelings-based things that are predicated on how you feel about this, that, or the other. Football teams are the same way. Like, how do you know someone is a Cubs fan? Like, look at the merch that they've got. I mean, or ask them about it, right? And it's kind of the same way with trans people. I feel like people really don't want to reduce gender to this, like, social construct place because they want to believe that all the gender roles they've been led to believe they have to occupy are valid and real and necessary for the continuation of society, for society's good and proper function. But it's just not. You do not have to live that way. You do not have to live your life that way. Phoebe, it pisses me off that people act like they gave a damn about trans people before Trump. Oh, dude, it is annoying. I gotta tell you, though, transphobia was rising since 2015 because there was an anti-SJW movement that kind of made it a little bit more normalized online to make fun of trans people. Before that, for a long time, trans people in American society had started to be seen as like sort of an oddity in a way. Like, there was still a lot of transphobia, a lot of people that would make fun of trans people, but in a lot of ways we were seen as kind of like an interesting novelty, a tolerable novelty, even in some places. And now, people are either pro-trans or anti-trans, and if they're anti-trans, they are vicious about it, usually. This is an example of the Dunning-Kruger effect? Wrong. I don't think I'm smart. So, I know I'm an idiot, okay? I'm outside of the Dunning-Kruger effect. The Dunning-Kruger effect describes people that aren't Phoebe Ophelia, okay? I'm sorry they didn't include that in the damn study or whatever, but it's true. It's in there. I'm an idiot and I know it, and that just wasn't included in the study data. Living in the South, I'd have noticed the climbing issues after COVID, though. I'm not denying trans people anything, but when you say you're a woman, what is the meaning behind it? What is the thing you're identifying with? It is the social construct that is womanhood. I feel more comfortable in feminine clothing. Maybe that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I just do. I have never related much to masculine hobbies, and I've related a ton to a lot of feminine hobbies throughout my life. To this day, I'm a pretty good seamstress, and I learned how to sew um, when I was like 6 or 7 years old because I wanted to repair my own plushies. Like literally, like what a girly sentence, and I was 6 years old. At least that's how society categorizes it. Now, do I think that there's anything inherently girly about sewing? No. But whether due to some inborn impulse or due to the society I was raised up in or some combination of the two, I feel more comfortable with the mantle of womanhood than I do that of manhood. I relate to it. It feels comfortable. It feels familiar. It feels right. In 21 years of living as a man, I never felt like that. But since I've been out as a woman, no such problems. What are you smoking? I couldn't think of anything clever. Cannabis. I couldn't think of anything clever, but I wanted to. But the only thing I could think of was like the devil's lettuce, which is not, you know, really funny. You prefer more males or females? Way more females. Way more women than men, for sure. I've had a few man friends over the years, but a woman is a woman. Surely there's more than that. Well, there is. Like, what? So, okay, let's answer the question. What is a woman? Well, it depends on who you ask, right? It depends on where you're at and the mores of a given culture. That's why it's most easiest to just like make it a self-referential definition. A woman is what is agreed upon as a woman in whatever given society you're in, or someone who identifies as such. Um, and you can go into the different reasons to why that is, but what people are identifying with when they say womanhood are the social characteristics assigned to people that have a vagina or are assumed to have one. That is what they are identifying with. You get what I'm saying? There are social roles assigned to people on the basis of their gender or their assumed gender. Can I ask you something, not to be disrespectful? Why are some trans communities so closely aligned to the right? Because, for the same reason, there were a lot of gay Nazis. Look up Ernst Röhm. Look up the leader of the brown shirts in Nazi Germany. Um, Pretty much open secret in Germany that he was gay. Ended up dying by execution eventually. But yeah, it is pretty common during times of reactionary politics and shit like that. It is pretty common for minority groups. It's the same reason why there's so many ICE officers that are Mexicans and Hispanic people. Because if you live in an oppressive regime, or if there's an oppressive authoritarian tendency rising in your country and you're a minority, it makes some sense initially to a lot of people for them to ally themselves closely with the ruling regime. Now, the truth would tell you that it's never a good idea to ally yourselves with the ruling regime. You should always be working with your community for the betterment of you all and for your collective liberation. That's the real thing. That's the real trick. But a lot of people get conned into joining institutions that contribute to their own demise. I like that cultural bit. Womanhood is different in different cultures, and a lot of people don't consider that. Yeah, 100%. Womanhood is a very different thing in Sri Lanka than it is here in America. And womanhood is a very different thing here in America than it is in the Philippines. And womanhood is a very different thing in the Philippines than it is in Russia. And womanhood is a very different thing in Russia than it is in China. You know, like we can go all over the place. I bet you the women of the Sentinel Islands have a very different life than me, you, or any other woman on the planet, you know? Do you shun people who detransition? They admit they did it for social acceptance? Not a lot of people say that. Like the overwhelming majority of people who detransition cite that they detransition because they're not. Okay, maybe I'm misinterpreting what you said. Are you saying that people cite a lack of social acceptance as their reason for detransitioning? Because you're right, if that's the case. Um, I don't shun people who detransition. No, I don't. But I do get pissed off at people who detransition and then use that as a vehicle to get some right wing grifter career. I hate that shit, and I think it's suspect every time. And there have been some instances where it's been shown that literally, like, some straight person just made up a trans arc to specifically be able to do the detransitioner drift. That has happened at least a number of times. So, you know, you have to question the verisimilitude of people who are using it to get some kind of political or social win on other people. But in general, no. Okay, I see what you mean, of course. She's smart, but I think people hate her. People just need to talk to her. You know what, Don Bond, that is so sweet, and I appreciate that. I will never agree or promise it, but I have zero problem with her transition or fighting for her right to exist. You know what? That is a position that more people could adopt if they actually had a grain of empathy or a shred of a human soul left. You can still be conservative, but think that people have basic human rights and should be allowed the autonomy to self determine, the autonomy to self express in whatever way they find fit, the autonomy to make decisions with their doctors and live based on those decisions. Thoughts on Hassan saying that Iran has more base takes on the trans issue than America? Oh, I agree with him. Yeah, 100%. They do. Now, the problem is, right? Um, yeah, what Hassan is saying there is that there is more official recognition on the state level, on the level of the state, not on the state level, but on the level of the state. There is a higher amount of recognition for transgender people specifically, not queer people broadly, transgender people specifically. Um, there is more of an there's because like the Ayatollah signed a fatwa back in the day declaring that transgender people are real and valid after a long campaign by a trans woman in Iran led to um, the Ayatollah changing his mind on the matter. Basically, it was their first Ayatollah, and ever since then, the clergy of Iran have been pretty much settled on the matter. And yeah, now the problem with that take, right, and the reason why you have to be nuanced when you talk about it is because very often in Iran, gay men and gay women are kind of like strong armed into like not it's not like they're like told by a government agent that they have to do this or whatever, but there's very often like a sort of cultural coercion towards transitioning if you are a gay person in Iran because they are so anti-gay in general. It is not easy to be a gay person in Iran, and rather than just be super secretive about it, there are people that will transition so that they can have sex with the type of human being that they're actually attracted to. Although, you know what? It would be interesting to see what the outcomes of that are ultimately. I don't know what the outcomes of that are, so I don't talk about it a whole lot. But I have made an edgy joke here or there about moving to Iran so I can get a sex change surgery eventually. I've made an edgy joke here or there about it, but yeah, I mean it's a nuanced topic. You do have to give them some credit for at least having the emotionality to recognize and like the scientific understanding to recognize that trans people are valid. Now, if they could only do that for queer people broadly and realize that honestly the Quran has next to nothing to say about homosexuality and the hadiths fucking contradict one another on the matter. Frankly. Just putting it out there. Women who change are still women, and men are men regardless of what you yapping about. What you talking about? Most trans are usually making a lot of essays and most regret any change. That is complete bullshit. Transgender people are actually far more likely to be the victim of sexual assault than they ever are to commit it. And the vast majority of transgender people remain transitioned and are happy about it when the social acceptance that they find in their community is reflective of the scientific consensus that transgender people are real and valid. Got to disagree with you on a fundamental level here, Phoebes. About what? About what? What? About the trans thing? On fucking the Iran thing? I mean, like, whatever, man. We can disagree on it. Ultimately, I don't know if our take is going to be that different, though. Like, you recognize that they do have a different stance on the, like, governmental level, right? And because they have universal healthcare in Iran, now they might not actually be able to provide universal healthcare all the time reliably, but ostensibly they do have it. Because they've got that, right? Like, they provide transgender care. Like, you also get trans care for free as well if you're an Iranian citizen, and in that fashion they do have a better, like, federal quote unquote policy than America does on the matter. It doesn't mean that they're actually based on the topic, because obviously they use it as a bludgeon to oppress gay people with, but it's still something worth noting because it's a difference between them and, say, Saudi Arabia. It's a difference that could possibly be used to fuel further activism at some point in the future that would get gay people accepted in Iran. And if you can get one Islamic country in close proximity to Arabia to change its stance on gay people, then maybe we can get the entire Muslim world to change its stance on gay people. The Iran thing? Okay, well, what's your position on it? And then I'm going to get off here. Wait, Iran has universal health care? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, pretty reasonably sure. Mean Gene Extra Mean, thank you for the $4.99. I appreciate that so much. Growing up, millennials were taught no one is born in the wrong body to counter the right wing. Ironic, opposite of Iran. Here's a cup of coffee. Well, thank you, Mean Gene. I appreciate the $4.99. I mean, when you say we were taught that nobody is born in the wrong body, what do you mean? Like, I don't feel like that was a lesson I got as a millennial. And I'm a cusper, so I'm a cusper raised by boomer and Gen X parents, so I feel like I should have gotten that lesson. I definitely got the lesson that trans people are fucking real and valid, at least after my parents divorced. I don't know if it ever came up before then. It's cool, Phoebe. Not that interesting of a discussion. I didn't expect your take on it. Stay blessed, bud. Hey, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just feel like it's not something to praise, but it's something to consider as an element in the discussion if we're talking about, is there any hope that the Muslim world will someday change its mind on gay issues? On queer issues broadly. I'm not saying it's the greatest thing ever. I'm not saying that they have some kind of great setup on it or anything like that. But yeah, I do think that on some level they recognize it more thoroughly and effectively than the United States government does. There's some state governments that do way better than Iran does, obviously, because they don't oppress gay people, and they provide even better care for transgender people because they actually have more resources to do that care with. But on a federal level, we have very little recognition. So it's just that, it's not that interesting a discussion, but I do appreciate your question. Later, sweetheart, we love all people. That's what Jesus said. The devil wants to fight each other, even the flags they do or whatever. Yeah, exactly. I 100% agree. It's the fucking, it's Satan that wants us to fight each other. It is not holy. It is not wholesome to fight and to be angry all the time, to be miserable, to fight your fellow man, your fellow woman, your fellow non-binary person. You don't want to be fighting with people all day long. The working class has nothing to lose but our chains, but that starts with all of us linking hands together and kicking real hard to shove these sons of bitches off. But that only happens if you work with people that look like me, and that only happens if I work with people that look like you guys. The fat trucker hat rednecks and the fat chubby trans girls and the furries and the crazy redneck tweakers and the middle class lesbians and the working class, like, slightly racist, like, white dude from the Midwest. We all gotta stand together and kick our chains off collectively. I feel like this is a losing argument for your side. I get what you're saying, though. I don't think so. As of recent, there's been one side shooting at the other. As of recent, oh yeah, the right wing's been shooting at the fucking left. Look at how many people have died in Minneapolis and died in ISIS care. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get off here. I've been out here way too long. I need to go. Good night, guys. I will see you guys later tonight with another stream. Make sure you hit that bell. Please make sure you hit that bell. That is the only way to guarantee that you see another one of my streams. That is the best way to do that. Thank you if you donated. You can also donate through my Cash App if you still want to give a little bit of money to me and help me support my fucking weird ass living on YouTube. Trust me, I would love to do this as a job for the rest of my life, but the only way that's possible is if you guys continue to fund the ongoing upgrades and developments of this channel. So if you want to do that, please do so either down below or with the super thanks button. Otherwise, make sure you're subscribed, make sure the bell is ringing, and consider sharing my channel around if you've got some people that you think might be interested, because I'm always looking for more interesting people to talk to in here, and we keep a pretty relaxed environment if you can't tell. With all that said, see you later. Thank you for hanging out. Bye.